Hey everyone, Justin here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm going to be continuing with the restoration of my 2011 Lotus Evora S by now moving on to the exhaust system. Real excited about this one. I have a Capristo exhaust that I picked up used. Thank you again, Christina. Shout out to you. And basically, I'll be covering the installation of the controller that actuates it. It's got a couple vacuum lines that need to be ran to it. And then obviously mounting up the muffler itself. And then at the end of the video, we'll get to hear it. So stand by. I'll be jumping right in. Thanks. All right, well, here we are. We're going to start off with my workbench. And so basically, just going over the Capristo components. You have the exhaust hanger, basically. These are components to hang the exhaust up itself. And a clamp. And then you have the Capristo controller. So this is basically going to have all the functioning for the vacuum actuated flapper that diverts exhaust between the internal muffler and then more of a bypass. It has connections here for power and ground, so this thing could obviously be powered up, and then there's also a driver for the solenoid. Solenoid is basically, again, that's the vacuum actuated bypass, and that's what the controller is going to be manipulating. So this is 4 settings, 1 through 4. I think 1 is totally closed and 4 is wide open, or vice versa. So basically that's how that all works. And if we come over to the car, you can see a little bit of the dilemma here. In the trunk, where I'm going to wire this up, and I'm going to mount the controller someplace along the trunk wall, probably over here. I've looked at all the circuits in the Lotus service notes. There is nothing in the trunk here that's 12 volt, only on the conditions of ignition or key. So that's what the controller asks for. It needs to be, basically not a 24/7 12 volt, because then the controller would just always be on, which you don't want. It'll burn up eventually, probably. So I can't run it directly to the battery. But there's no circuits for here to tap off of. And I don't want to drill any more holes in the firewall and tap off anything in the engine compartment. It's just messy. So what I'm going to do instead is, if you look through the conveniently missing taillight, there is the hole. That's the vent, much like I use for the amp wiring. And that vent goes into the cabin right behind the rear fuse holder. So here's your rear fuse holder fuse block. And you can see right above it, that's the hose that goes back into the trunk. So in looking at this and looking at the diagrams, R8 is the fuse. That's for solenoids. Being how this is going to be a solenoid, I think that kind of makes sense in a sense, right? So solenoid, which is R8, I'm going to use the power of the controller using a tap. So they make these nice little taps. I just bought one off of Amazon. I normally would never use it, but in this case, I kind of want it to be something I could take out if I wanted to. So I don't really want to hardwire it in. And this is the Lotus note. You can kind of see these are ignition, comes in 12 volt. The ignition relay, which is only powered, obviously, when the ignition is on. And then that is going to R8. So R8 is a 7.5 amp fuse. And if I get a little tap, it's going to plug into that spot. And then I'll run a new circuit off of that. That goes to the controller. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to start mounting this up. But obviously, I'm not going to be able to power it today until I get that fuse holder or fuse tap in. And so that's my focus. So get this installed, get the vacuum line all routed, and then I could actually get the muffler mounted up. All right, this is the progress I've made thus far. I have the exhaust controller mounted on the rear of the trunk. You can see the vacuum line is coming through the hole right here. That's for the back pressure sensing, and then the power and the ground are connected, and then I just used Velcro to stick it to the back of the trunk. So that's all well and good. And the lines, as you can see right here, basically what I did is, this is the foam part of the bumper. It's like the filler behind the bumper. It's kind of interesting how it's secured. There's like these little screws underneath. And so I was debating on removing these with these little screws and maybe drilling a hole in the back and having to pass through that. But, honestly, I didn't want to overcomplicate this. I just took an X-Acto knife, cut a notch, ran the vacuum line through that, did the same for the connector that's going to go to the solenoid. And then this is what you're looking at. So I have the back pressure line here. That's going to connect to the back pressure port on the muffler. Muffler's here. So here's your back pressure port that senses, I guess, that the controller is working properly. And then as this is valved, underneath is the valve actuator for the exhaust. You see it over to the right there. And that's going to get the line coming from the solenoid. When I get the solenoid hooked up, solenoid's right here. And so now it's just figuring out where to mount this. This is going to be fed off a vacuum from the engine. And then it tees off, goes to the two solenoids, or it's just the one solenoid on the engine. There's your air source. This is open. And then this is from the engine. So from the engine to the muffler, I think. And then that's open to air. Whatever the case, I need to find a place to mount it. And so, you know, looking under the engine here, trying to figure it out. I do want it to be away from the exhaust, just because of failure, right? You want it to be protected. It is an electronic after all, the valve. And so what I've done is I've routed the cable for the solenoid up and under here on the opposite side of this heat shield, so it's protected from the exhaust heat. So the wire is running up and over, and it pops out through here. Cool. And then what I've done is I've drilled a hole through the bulkhead, and this hole is where I'm going to mount the solenoid on the other side. So at the end of the day, you can see here, I'm going to mount this right up, just like that. Just like that. None on the other side. Here's your electrical connection, is going to connect right there. Vacuum lines going to run up safely away from heat, and then out to the exhaust. So yeah, I guess I'll just do a time lapse on it. Not terribly exciting. This is the critical thing, is where to mount this and where to mount the controller, and then just routing of power and ground. So I'm like almost there, and then I'll just mount up the muffler. So yeah, anyway, we'll just jump into the time lapse, and I'll update at the end. Alright, so the solenoid is mounted up. As you can see, this is where it is. It's out of the way of the transmission. It's not going to get knocked into, and it's not going to get wet or exposed to heat. So it's a good position right here. The red line that's coming out, this is what's going to go to the exhaust valve. There's only one on it. You have your electrical connection that's being fed off the controller, and then you have the feed that's coming from the engine. So I just tapped that off of a direct port, off of the supercharger, pre-supercharger, post-throttle body, exactly where the original exhaust solenoid for the factory exhaust was being fed from. So that's that. Solenoid's all good. Now, here is this beautiful exhaust. Honestly, I can't stop looking at it, and it's a real shame that I'm not going to see it once it's all bolted up, right? It's just going to be the tips here, but that's okay. I guess the sound will more than make up for that. But you have the two brackets, one on each side. This came from a GT, an Evora GT, and I think the Evora GT had larger bushings. This is the hardware I had with it, and it looks like there's a cut hose that was stuck over it to increase the diameter of it. So I'm just going to remove this. I think that's all I have to do is just remove that, and then that'll insert through here, and I'll be good. So I'm going to start mounting up the exhaust. And the last thing I guess worth mentioning here is the factory hoses. I took it off of the solenoid, the factory one, and so I'm just going to eliminate these. I'm not going to go through the hassle of unbolting the lines, the hard lines. I'm just going to disconnect the soft lines here and just abandon them in place. I don't really need it. I'll leave the solenoid, the factory one, mounted in case I ever need to go back to it. I'm not going to touch the wiring. So this is all reversible, but otherwise there's really no reason for it. And then I'll just use some zip ties, secure everything out of the way so that it can't rub, and so it's not going to get it, touch the exhaust and melt or anything like that. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to struggle with this thing, get the clamps and everything greased up. I'm gonna use some anti-seize on this, obviously, and that should be that. Alright, so this is how the exhaust looks for now. It's mounted up pretty good. I have to level it. Obviously, that's going to have to wait until I get the diffuser and the panels and whatever back in here so I can see what clearance it's going to be. But it's pretty much just like minor adjustments that are necessary at this point. If you look underneath, basically all the vacuum tubing is zip tied. Everything's out of the way. So I'm pretty happy with this. And, you know, I can't wait until I get the tap. I wanted to hear this thing tonight, kind of close this out. So I did you know, what I would normally not recommend, but I just ran the wire right into the fuse panel and just have it held in by a fuse so it'll get powered. So I will be powering up the car, going into ignition, and you can see the controls powered up. If I press the buttons on the remote, you hear that faint click. So that's the solenoid. So all sounds good. I guess at this point I'll be hearing the exhaust. Okay, and just like that, the exhaust is working. She's really rowdy. I don't know if you heard, but right at the beginning, it was fully closed. I hit the 4 on the remote, it went open, and so it got a lot louder. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning right now, so hopefully I didn't wake up my family, but I'm going to call this a wrap. It proves that the controller is working. This is exhaust from a GT, so that also shows that the GT exhaust is compatible with the S1s, which is kind of cool. Probably nobody's surprised by that, but hey, this was all just kind of a gamble with me. When I bought it used, and I really didn't know if this was going to work out or not. I'm just happy it did. So obviously I'm not going to be able to hear what it sounds like fully on the car until the car is like together and running and I'm able to drive it, but it's cool that I'll have the modes that I could select, so if it's too loud, go a little bit quieter. And you can see the install wasn't that bad, and so if I decide I really don't like it, I have the exhaust that came on the car. I could always bolt that back up. It was these 2 Type S bore mufflers, and it was also vacuum actuated. So yeah, I'm going to try it out. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time to get this thing fully back together, but I am really happy with the results right now. And so I'm going to end it here. And if you like this video, like, subscribe. I'll see you next time. Take care.